In these times of $20 price increases, from $60 games to $80, a brand new game has launched for Switch 2 that is actually cheaper than the previous game in the series. What was already a bargain at $20 on Switch 1 now has a sequel that is only $15. Unless you include Fortnite, which is of course free to play, free in inverted commas, or the Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which isn't a game, it's an interactive manual / idiot compliancy test. At $15, this is actually the cheapest game available at launch, even cheaper than the Arcade Archives emulation stuff. And I'm here to tell you that out of all 25 games in the Switch 2 launch lineup, not only is this the cheapest game, but it's the best game, in my opinion, and the one that means that I don't regret buying my console. I'm loving it, and I'm having a blast. That game is Fast Fusion. Now, you could stop here, just buy the game, I wouldn't blame you, but I hope that you'll stick around and listen to my review. The game isn't perfect. There are things that can be improved with updates, which the developers have promised are coming, and are free. The game also might not be for everybody. It can be brutally difficult. It's pretty hardcore, but if you stick with it, it's also one of the most rewarding games that you'll ever play. And unlike Mario Kart, the unlock incentives are insane. And if you're like me, you will keep coming back to try and get them all. We'll cover all that and more in my full review after I quickly read the introduction. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Daily Switch 2, a podcast covering everything related to Nintendo Switch 2 with at least one new episode uploaded per day to YouTube, Spotify, and your favorite major platforms. My name is Sam, and I've been a gamer since the 1980s. I've worked in the entertainment industry since I was a teenager, including as a games journalist, producer of gaming documentaries and shows, and I'm even programming multiple indie video games, including 4, which will be released on the Switch, and hopefully Switch 2. So be sure to subscribe and follow the show for the world-exclusive news on those as they drop. However, I'm a gamer and a Nintendo fan at heart, and this podcast is purely a passion project for me to talk about the stuff that interests and excites me about this new system. It's not monetized or funded by any entity. It's completely unofficial and unbiased so that I can give my full, frank, honest opinions. So if you want to support me or just find out the best places to get these free daily episodes or to join our free members area where you can talk to me and leave suggestions and take part in monthly free giveaways to win official Nintendo prizes, all links are in the bio and at linktree/dailyswitch2. That's linktr.ee/dailyswitch2. Thank you so much, and back to the episode. So, I talked extensively in a previous episode about the controversies and negativity around the Switch 2's launch, echoing many of the talking points of the Super Nintendo's console launch, which are now mostly forgotten because, it's one of the most beloved consoles of all time. But back then, there were only 2 games at launch. And while there are 25 games at launch for the Nintendo Switch, only 4 of them are system exclusive. And one is the Welcome Tour, which, as I've already said, barely counts as a game. So 3 games and 2 games. And just like with the Super Nintendo's launch, where Mario World was the game everyone was talking about, with the Switch 2, Mario KART World is what everyone's talking about. Both undeniably very good games, but with controversy and negativity at launch, because to many, they don't feel quite big enough of an evolution over the previous titles, Super Mario Bros. 3 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And while they both had cool new features and ideas, people complained then, just as they're complaining now, that they don't feel as polished, or tight, and with consistent quality throughout as the previous titles. Obviously, nowadays, Super Mario World is considered, one of the best games of all time, but people still argue over whether Super Mario Bros. 3 is better over 3 decades later. In my opinion, yes, it is, although I do love Yoshi. And at the time, this argument carried a lot more weight because the pressure was on the game to persuade people to buy a whole new system just to play that game. And both the console and games were more expensive than the previous generation. You can see the parallels with the launch of the Switch 2, right? Well, the other parallel is that in reality, the other exclusive launch game, the non-Mario exclusive launch game, was actually the game that was more original, more technically impressive, and a more obvious reason to buy the system. at least for the less casual gamers wanting both a real graphical showpiece and a genuine tough challenge to master. The SNES had F-Zero, and the Switch 2 has its spiritual successor, Fast Fusion. Fast Fusion is the latest entry in the fast racing series from Shin'en. I always wondered if it was meant to read like kind of shining, but stylized to look Japanese. Shin'en? I don't know. I'm going to say Shin'en. It's the fourth game, depending on how you classify it. It started with Fast Racing League on the Wii Shop channel in 2011, and Fast Racing Neo in 2015, a vastly expanded and improved version of the Wii game, available as a launch game for the Wii U, and I played a ton of it on Wii U. It had DLC with 8 new tracks and 10 vehicles, and it was great value. Fast RMX was a remixed and enhanced version, and again, a launch title, this time for the Switch. It included all DLC from the previous version, and it later got its own free update with 6 more tracks. The latest game is once again a system launch title, this time for the Switch 2, but this time arguably a brand new title from the ground up this time around. The games have always been really impressive demonstrations on the capability of their console, with some of the best, sharpest, fastest, smoothest 3D graphics on their respective systems. And frankly, it's criminal that they tend to remain digital-only games. Although I think there has been a rare occasion, a late release physical edition has come out. I remember on Wii U, at least, a copy existed in some regions late in the system's life. Because I remember being annoyed that the packaging it looked kind of like a player's choice or a budget version. So I wanted a physical copy, but I didn't exactly like how the box art looked. But I bought it anyway, because I wanted to support the developers, and it's a great game. Anyway, if some kind of limited run style company makes a physical version of this game for the Switch 2, I will happily double dip. Say $30 for a keycard or $50 for a proper physical copy, and I would be there day one. I want to support the devs. This is a great game that I want to own and display with pride, even if only to make my $80 Mario Kart World feel a little inadequate next to this $15 game. If you are watching this on YouTube, you'll be seeing some gameplay right now. I'll be putting up footage from the trailer. I can't capture gameplay footage right now because my computer is already ready to explode by rendering out these daily episodes. But so if you're watching the gameplay, you'll know. But for those who are listening on Spotify or other audio-only platforms, you may not even know the genre that we're talking about right now. It's racing, it's fast, we know that much from the titles of the previous games. But if you know F-Zero, then you probably already deduced that it's a futuristic space-style anti-grav game. Now, some of you will be saying, what do you mean if you know F-Zero? Of course people know F-Zero. Well, it depends on your age and how long you've been into video games. While maybe the first really popular game in this style was the arcade hit Stun Runner back in 1989, which also was one of the few genuine system sellers for the Atari Lynx portable handheld console. I clearly remember both those things, the arcade in 1989 and the launch of the Lynx, so that starts to show my age. But F-Zero is arguably the true flagship pioneer of this genre. It's one of my favorite Nintendo franchises, but it's one that Nintendo severely underutilized. We haven't got a proper full-fat new game since F-Zero GX on GameCube and the arcade's counterpart F-Zero AX, both of which were made by Sega, not Nintendo, but under license. And these are over 20 years old at this point. Although we do have GX finally coming to the Switch Online with Switch 2, provided that you pay for the online and upgrade service and you buy a $65 GameCube controller to play it properly with analog triggers. I ranted about that in various videos. Why does the Switch 2 still not have analog triggers, even though they're now including GameCube games which need analog triggers? It's crazy, but I'm as guilty as anybody because I will put down my $65 to buy one of those GameCube controllers. Some people will point to the 2 Game Boy Advance F-Zero games as newer games in this series. Yeah, they are both great, but they were more based on the Super Nintendo title tech-wise. And again, it's over 20 years ago. We did, of course, get F-Zero 99 recently, I think, 2023, maybe? Question mark. I mean, it's a fun time, but it's just basically an online battle royale version of the 16-bit title rather than a limit-pushing AAA experience like the old games were in their time. So to many fans, it kind of felt somewhat of a slap in the face, even if it's a cool novelty and easy to lose hours to it if you are the competitive online gaming type. So I've been doing a lot of talking, and there are some people out there who still don't know what genre I'm talking about. This is a racing game, but a futuristic racing game. Space-style, anti-gravity racing game. Of course, F-Zero isn't the only famous futuristic racing franchise. There's the incredible Wipeout series, mostly on Sony systems, but both Sega and Nintendo got their own pretty decent entries in their series back in the day. One of the better launch window games for the N64 was also Extreme G. On around about the same time on various systems. We had Roll Cage, Hydro Thunder, Rush 2049, Star Wars Pod Racer, all springing to mind as games that many consider classics to this day. And even Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U and the Switch 1 added anti-gravity mechanics. And for me, it's actually a shame they didn't carry over into World. Can you imagine the open world having loops, Mobius strips, 360-degree tunnels? I mean, perhaps Sonic Crossworlds will oblige? I don't know, but that's for another video. As far as futuristic races on modern systems, the Fast series has always been right at the very top of the pile, for me at least, and the one that comes closest to matching or even beating those classic titles. So why don't more people know about the Fast Racing series? Maybe because it's download only, typically. Maybe because the names of the games always kind of sound a bit like generic shovelware rather than an obvious quality franchise. Many people, myself included, wish that Nintendo would just buy the developers, Shin'en, or at least hire them to make a true next-gen F-Zero title. But until then, trust me, if you like F-Zero or any other of the games I just mentioned, Wipeout, Episode 1, Pod Racer, whatever, you'll love this, no question. In the Fast games, as you might guess, you move very quickly. It's kind of in the name. The other races become obstacles that you must avoid with extreme kind of twitch reactions, but the tracks themselves are the real thing to master, learning each twist and curve. There's no long, empty Mario Kart World style straights here. These courses require practicing and learning to even be able to complete them, let alone with a decent time or qualifying position. Some people will find the difficulty off-putting, yes, but like F-Zero, Wipeout, and the other best games in the genre, it's precisely this necessity to practice, learn, and master that makes it so satisfying. It's difficult, but it's not unfair. When you mess up, it's your fault, and you instantly kind of want to jump back in again to do that little bit better than you just did last time and get that little bit further or closer to the top spot. The unique twist in the Fast Racing series compared to other races in the genre is that your ship can switch between orange or blue phases, in inverted commas, at the press of a button. It's very easy to see which color phase you're in by just the exhaust light and the neon glow surrounding your ship. Like most games in the genre, there are boost panels placed around the track which speed you up if you drive over them. But the twist here is that they come in both orange and blue varieties, and if your ship is matching that color, you boost much faster. There are also coins scattered around the track to collect, and these fill a boost meter, which you can use strategically at any time. The colored phasing feels somewhat reminiscent of classics in other genres, like Radiant Silvergun, for example. But for a racing game, this is pretty unique to the series, I think. And when you use that boost effectively, the sense of speed here is incredible, with the camera pulling back and the view warping like real camera lens defects and motion blurring. It's gorgeous in handheld mode, but on a big TV in 4K, it is simply stunning. You might even get motion sickness or feel like you're experiencing G-force if your screen is big enough and you're close enough. The graphics aren't just fast and smooth, they are beautiful and detailed, with each track having an impressive range of unique scenery and a style all its own. Again, unlike Mario Kart, every area and track feels equally polished and well designed. Not to keep bashing on Mario Kart World, I genuinely do enjoy the game, but as I said in my review, a smaller game but with more consistent quality would have left a better impression. People tend to remember the things that they don't like and will always be looking for something to criticize, especially at $80. By comparison here, Shin'en have made a smaller, simpler game, but everything is 100% as good as I can possibly imagine it being, or 99%. I'm not constantly finding little niggles and things that could have been improved or further developed, and again, it's only $15, not $80. So now that I've said that it's a smaller experience, perhaps one of the only complaints I can see people having here is that at launch, the game has only 12 tracks. Only is in inverted commas, to be honest. To me, it feels like plenty. It's less than the previous games, sure, but don't forget that every previous game had both free updates and DLC, and they were all building upon each other and reusing assets. They were more like improved, iterative versions of the same game with every new system, whereas these are brand new tracks in a brand new game built from the ground up. Each one is commendably completely different in style and don't just reuse the same assets in a different order, like many racing games do to pad content. The coloring, weather, lighting, shadows, and atmospheric effects are notably different in each track, and this is exactly what I said was missing from Mario Kart's tracks because of the necessity for them to be available at all times of day. That sometimes imposed limits on actually allowing for kind of better artistic expression and more visual and stylistic separation between areas. And that's the case here, that by not having that limitation of, they have to be available to be able to race at any time of day in any weather condition. No, it means that each track can be given a unique atmosphere and look and feel. The unique gimmicks and crazy obstacles on track, I won't spoil any by getting into it other than what you can see in the gameplay footage in the trailer if you're watching on YouTube. They really keep every area surprisingly new and fresh as well. These tracks are very intricate. They'll take real genuine time to master, so 12 is by no means a small number. And the devs have promised, actually, that more are coming very soon. And from their previous track record, pun intended, I suppose, I do believe them. You can also play each track reversed as well, so the 12 sort of becomes 24, but we'll get to that in a minute. Just know that 12 is actually plenty to start with, and even if that concerns you, there's more coming. And again, it's $15, not $80. There are several leagues. The first is the Subsonic League, and in many ways this feels like it was put in there to ease beginners into what is essentially a brutally difficult but rewarding game. If you're a newcomer to the series, you'll likely enjoy this, but if you are a series veteran, then you might find it worrying as your first experience playing because it will feel slow and easy compared to what you're used to. But don't worry, the Supersonic League will start really kicking your butt like you expect it to. The Subsonic League was obviously included to be more beginner-friendly and open the game up to a wider audience. So personally, I think that's a very good thing, even if veterans will want to try it once and then never come back, moving on to the big boy leagues where the really satisfying gameplay lies. There isn't much to say about the controls. They're just simply perfect, intuitive, responsive. When something goes wrong, it's your fault, like I said, and you want to train yourself to get better. Would I have liked analog triggers for acceleration and brakes? Yes, but that's a limitation of the Switch too, and not the game. Shin'en can be commended at making a game that plays perfectly, literally perfectly, given the hardware that it was designed for. While in racing games, I'm usually a time trial addict, trying to shave milliseconds off my previous best, and of course that is all present and correct here. The superhero mode was actually my favorite mode in the previous game, and it returns here, and it's great. If you are familiar with Death Race in the later F-Zero games, it's basically the same idea, but perfected, really. You have to get through the races without ever crashing. A single misplaced bump or oopsie, you're disqualified, basically one-hit kills. You also have a life bar, in inverted commas, which decreases with your boost. So hitting the boost pads and collecting coins becomes a matter of life and death, literally, as you can't boost without them, as it will drain your HP. And if it gets to 0, game over. Game over, man. This really shows off how well designed the tracks are and how each boost pad and item is placed with precision to allow practicing to perfection. Superhero mode is absolutely brutal, but it puts you on the edge of your seat and it's exhilarating when you finally pass the finish line still in one piece. Oh, and did I mention that in Superhero mode the tracks are mirrored? So even if you've mastered them in Championship or Time Trials, you'll have to relearn them all over again. Yeah, good luck. Like Mario Kart World, new moves have been added to your racing and you'll have more ways to play. Your vehicle can now jump. Not just a little hop a la Mario Kart, but like a huge leap based on the speed that you're doing and the surface that you're on at the time. There's always been rewards in these games for getting crazy air and doing stunts in the Fast series, but this new jump utilized in the right place and right time can lead to some insane air, and it is so good when you pull it off. Each track also has like hidden coins, branching paths, and shortcuts to be utilized by jumping at just the right time. You can even get coins by jumping and landing on other players' heads, like Mario squashing a Goomba. Woohoo! Again, Mario Kart has this element of new moves, allowing alternative routes and finding hidden items too. And it's one of the elements that I really like about the game. But as I mentioned in my review, I felt it wasn't always able to be used to its full advantage because of the extra wide courses and extra long straights required by the limitations imposed by having to implement 24 races at once and an interconnected map. If you liked that aspect of Mario Kart World, well, it's here, but implemented in a far more convincing manner, in my opinion. The AI of the other computer-controlled races seems pretty good, and often these serve as a way to find these alternate paths by watching them and trying to copy the route that they took. And again, I don't think this is just the AI following predetermined paths. I think they are actually racing and making decisions on the fly, because if you take part in the championships and look at the placements, the computer-controlled races are not always finishing in the same order. It's perfectly possible for you to never come first, but still win the championship on points because no one racer got the top place consistently. So to me, as a game dev myself, this says that they aren't simply given specific fixed stats for speed and acceleration and following a fixed path. They are actually fallible, like real human races, or at least Shin'en have done a good job of making it feel like that. Again, this is a significant improvement over the kind of predictable repeating performance of different characters that we're used to in Mario Kart games. I swear I'm not trying to bash Mario Kart. It's good. It's just we should have fixed that specific problem by now. The biggest new addition to the game is the eponymous fusion element. There are already a ton of vehicles in the game, all with different visual styles, colors, and company logos, similar to what you'd expect from a game in the Wipeout series as far as the visual style. But you can fuse any two vehicles together and generate a brand new vehicle that incorporates both visual and performance elements from both vehicles. And you can even choose which is the more dominant one of the pair by the order in which you fuse them. I know it sounds like a gimmick, but it's really, really cool, and it works incredibly well. It allows you to create really visually interesting and distinct vehicles with some enormous variety, and slowly hone these settings to make your perfect vehicle that looks and performs exactly to match your personal taste and playstyle. Weird as it sounds, it's a bit like interbreeding species and genetically evolving vehicles. It's crazy, but it works. I'm not sure the theoretical maximum vehicles that you can create, but it's definitely in the multiple hundreds. And it's so cool to me that even the company names and logos get all mixed together like a crazy futuristic corporate merger. It's tempting to assume that this is some kind of AI algorithm, but it works so well, and each finished result is so polished and perfect looking that I feel like somebody has literally made all of these by hand, or at least guided and tweaked the results. So don't assume that you will dismiss this right away as a novelty. It's really fun, and it's not just visual changes, you will be trying to find ways to make vehicles with better and better specs. You basically need to do this to compete in the fastest leagues, unless you're godlike skill, I suppose. And it's so satisfying to win a race in your brand new creation that you've just made. So you unlock different vehicles and therefore parts as you progress, and you use in-game currency to buy more along the way and to perform the fusions themselves. But never fear, however, this is not a case of microtransactions or in-game purchases. The only way to get in-game currency is by playing the game, winning races, performing well, collecting items. The devs should really be congratulated here for avoiding the temptation to monetize this mechanic in such an obvious way, especially when, once again, this is only a $15 game. Literally the cheapest game available on the console at launch. Shin'en certainly can't be accused of greed here, just going all out to give you reasons to want to keep playing and to make it fun to keep coming back. And even if you combine two machines and you don't like the result, or you just want to try something different, you can even dismantle the vehicles for parts to use on other vehicles, like sell them for like secondhand parts, so you don't even have to grind too much. It feels endless and like they've thought of everything and really gone all in on fleshing out this new feature, not just half-assing it for a quick novelty gimmick to differentiate it from the previous title. Nah, this adds a ton of depth, and it's about as polished as you could possibly want. There are various performance modes. Quality, in inverted commas, that's what it's called, is 1080 to 4K visuals at 60 frames a second. Obviously, the portable screen only goes up to 1080, but on the TV you can have up to 4K if your TV supports it. It's 60 frames a second. It's very smooth at launch. Not quite 100% locked, 60 frames. However, the developers say that they will be updating with a free patch that absolutely locks it solidly. And also adds a pure, in inverted commas, mode to remove certain graphical filters like anti-aliasing, etc., which some users will prefer for an even crisper image at 4K. I can't wait for this, but even right now at launch, as is, it looks incredible and it runs far smoother than it has any right to in 4K on essentially portable tablet hardware. This wouldn't look out of place on the PS5 or Series X, to be honest. It's a hazard of modern gaming that some impressive graphical effects intended to closer replicate real-life visuals can be perceived by some players as actually looking worse. Things like anti-aliasing, motion blur, and depth of field effects are impressive and next-gen to some people, but off-putting to others. So the fact that Shin'en have already said that they're going to patch the game to have a completely clean option, removing these kind of effects is really good and should please anyone who isn't keen on the new graphic effects. But personally, to me, though, even in its launch state, Fast Fusion has easily the most impressive graphics I've seen on my Switch 2. There is an ultra quality option, ultra in inverted commas also, which, as far as I can tell, mostly just improves the texture resolution. But when everything is moving this fast, it's not necessary. And it does slow the frame rate down to 30, so I can't see anyone wanting to use the option when it looks beautiful and runs perfectly in 4K 60 FPS already. But it's nice that they included it, I suppose. And the devs have said that they are trying to develop a 120 frames per second mode, again, for a potential future update. I don't know, but I imagine that this would lower the resolution to 1080 in docked mode. But in handheld mode, 120 frames would be incredible. To be honest, though, 60 frames per second is more than sufficient. Hell, it's fantastic. No notes. But if it can get even better in the future with a no-cost patch, hell yeah, bring it on. The music is similarly impressive to the presentation. A wide variety of high adrenaline electronic dance music. I'm old and out of touch, so I don't know exactly what genre this falls into. EDM, house, techno, etc. But what I do know is it's great, and it suits the game perfectly, keeping the adrenaline pumping. I don't think it's licensed music, a la Wipeout, but to me it sounds as good as any commercial club music and is another highlight of the game. You can also spend your in-game currency. Again, that is not a micro-purchase or microtransaction. You only earn it through gameplay. your in-game currency to unlock your favorite music tracks to be listenable in the game's extensive jukebox, which also includes tracks from previous games in the series. So if you're into your dance music, this is like buying multiple CDs of great music to listen to. Perhaps the only thing that people will be truly disappointed by is the lack of online multiplayer, or the lack of a proper online multiplayer. For me, this isn't an issue, as I vastly prefer local multiplayer, and that is here, present and correct. And I didn't notice any frame rate reductions in split screen mode, unlike Mario Kart again. You could, in theory, play online against a friend with the new game share feature of Switch 2. However, I can't imagine that this would work well. I haven't tried it, but I can't imagine that this would work well. It's bound to have lag and frame drops. Again, that's not Shin'en's fault, that's Nintendo's fault. Perhaps a proper online multiplayer could be added to the game down the line if it's popular enough and sells enough copies, if there's enough fan demand. The developers are obviously planning many updates in the future, so you never know. But there was an online mode in the last game, but it didn't sell well enough to sustain lobbies, so actually finding an online race partner was near impossible. So this is probably why it wasn't a priority this time around, which is a shame. But if you want the mode to be added, support the game, buy it, tell everyone that you know to buy it, and maybe with enough of a push, it will become a viable option. For me, as a predominantly single-player and local multiplayer guy, this game is basically perfect. And it will only get better with time. This is only the second game review that I've done on this channel, and with the first review, Mario Kart World, I didn't really feel comfortable giving it a review score because it was too big a game and felt more like my first impressions. I'll be making far more videos on the game over time as my opinion develops. With Fast Fusion, I don't really have such worries. If I was rating out of 10 at this price point, this is an easy 9 out of 10, but maybe that's slightly misleading. Back in my day in magazines and TV shows, we used to give percentage scores to help give nuance between the numbers. Is it a low 9 out of 10? Is it a high 9 out of 10? So in that situation, I'd give this pretty much exactly 90%. There is room for improvement. With the promised performance patch, it will jump straight to maybe a 92%. With future tracks added, again, just as already promised, maybe 95%. Add a decent online multiplayer and we'll be at 98%. And a feature-complete physical release further down the line will be a literal 100% from me. I can't imagine a more perfect game in this genre at that point. As it stands, this is the best launch game on Nintendo Switch 2 by a country mile. And the fact it's a system exclusive and the cheapest game on the system, come on, man, it's lights out. Lights out. Just go and buy this game to show Shin'en the love that they have always deserved, but for some reason never gotten. I will be diving deep into the full launch lineup of 25 games in the next few days, as well as covering the forthcoming Donkey Kong Bonanza, including the Nintendo Direct. So be sure to subscribe. All links to support and follow the show on your favorite platforms, including Spotify, YouTube, and a free members area where you can come and chat to me, request future games to review or topics to cover, and take part in monthly free giveaways to win official Nintendo stuff are at linktree/dailyswitch2. That's linktr.ee/dailyswitch2. And for those people who have been loudly complaining and spamming drop the price in the comments of every Nintendo comment section and live stream, but then went out and bought the system anyway, do yourself a favor and put your money where your mouth is. Show Nintendo that you support high quality games at truly reasonable prices. Please, please, and thank you. See you next time.